I spend my life researching and teaching people how to live a powerful life. I am a believer. I stand for the transformation of humanity. I have found my purpose. My name is Gabrielle McGee, and I am the rebellious therapist. So welcome to my Rebellious Therapist podcast, Season 2, Episode 3. Can you imagine, Ciara? It's episode 3 already. It just feels like yesterday since we started to, or even started talking about podcasts. So this is the season where we decided that we were going to do the how to, give advice, give people access to, making a difference. And today, myself and Ciara, we're going to talk about attachment styles. So just not attachment styles in relationships, but attachment styles with people, places, and things. So we're going to really, explore how we get attached or how we avoid certain particular areas in our life, including relationships. So, so welcome, Ciara. I know
Hello.
You were saying in New York today, it's 60 degrees. It's like, oh my God, I am so jealous sitting here in Donegal. But
springtime here. We're normally supposed to have like feet of snow, but nope. We're in spring.
Amazing.
So it's funny. Someone was explaining a woman's mood compared to the New York weather. You never know what you're going to get.
Was that a man who said that?
Yeah, exactly. A man said that about his wife on Instagram.
Oh, that's funny. Yes. We'll keep them on the toes.
Yeah, exactly.
So attachment styles is something I think what's really interesting was how this came up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't mind me saying this, it's like, the sort of the big changes in your life in the last few weeks.
Yes.
Which has been phenomenal to sort of support you with, guide you through, and looking at those changes, what it felt like, and your attachment to everything that you had to let go of, and what that looks like now.
For sure.
So we will talk about that in a minute, but I know we want to sort of address the attachment styles in relationships first of all.
Yeah.
So if you want to just take it away there, Ciara, please.
So just to simplify it, I'll give the 4 overarching kind of attachment styles that people would be most easily accessible to. Mm-hmm. That is anxious attachment style, avoidant attachment style, disorganized attachment style, and secure attachment style. Do you want to explain a little bit like what an anxious attachment is? Funny, actually, I was reading up about secure, and I know you are like, oh, I don't know any secure people in the world. And there was an author saying you should relate secure attachment styles to your dogs. So I'm
an anxious attachment to my dogs.
What?
I'm an anxious attachment style to my dogs.
The point that she made though was like, your dog might pee or poo in the house, might wake you up in the middle of the night, and you just treat that and show up very graciously and understanding because you're just meeting the needs of the dog because you love it so much no matter what.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of human being relationships can be quite conditional. So I love you because you do this, or I love you because of whatever. So that's just one example of it. Secure.
One theory.
So anxious, I would say I was in relationships, and now I've maybe moved into the little bit of the avoidance space. So I don't know if you want to explain anxious.
Yeah, very good. So first of all, one of the things that people don't understand is we did a seminar on this, your attachment styles. And when we started, we did have people look at their style of how they did relationships. So what happened was at the start of that seminar and 8 weeks out, people's actual relationship with their attachment style had changed. So this is something you can work on, something that you can definitely make a difference going forward. And also your attachment styles does change from relationship to relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a two-way thing there at that point, right? So first of all, your attachment style is how you've learned to have relationships as a child, right? So it might be something you've inherited, because a lot of people might have uh, a father or a mother who's, an avoidant. So that's what's familiar to them. That's the process they've learned. Because what they're doing, the child from 0 till 7 is looking with their mirror neurons
Mm-hmm.
and viewing how do we, how do I, obviously not in a conscious way, but they're just looking and figuring out how to be in the world and connect. And what
And that's
happens is if that's if the parents doesn't know how to do secure relationships, then guess what? Now we have an issue where you're learning how not either, either to do a anxious attachment or an avoidant.
yeah. So your attachment style is rooted in how your primary caretakers met your needs or didn't meet your
or
needs,
or didn't
showed
or
you
mirrored.
love.
Yeah,
Which
or mirrored their relationship with you
yeah,
and the
yeah.
world, right? So it's quite complex if you really think about this.
Mm,
And not so
yeah.
complex if you sort of, if you have a good enough therapist to work this stuff through.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you might be an anxious attachment, but you might have had a dad who's an avoidant. So then you got another layer where you're heading into what's familiar. There is you go for the avoidant in relationship, mom, dad, it doesn't matter. So the boys might have a mom, the girls might have a dad, or the girl might have a mom who just didn't know how to emotionally meet them and secure them in a space where what they needed at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
It's really complex.
Yeah. So
Bringing
what would you
children
say
up.
an anxious attachment looks like then?
So anxious attachment is always, coming from definitely hurt and protection. So what people don't know is, they might really want to, connect. They might really want to have that relationship, but they have no access to it. Because what they've really hardwired and subconsciously programmed is to protect themselves through a deep hurt or trauma somewhere in their early days. So what they've learned to do is to keep themselves safe. The avoidance is all about safety.
The anxious or the avoid?
The avoidant. So the anxious attachment is all about security, trying to feel secure. The avoidance is all about protection.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's coming
So
from
like for me, anxious, the only way I can describe it in my life was like clinging on really tight.
Yeah.
Like
Trying to
holding
find
on to
security.
something
Yeah.
like that really didn't serve me in the end or wasn't reciprocated. But it was all the way I anxiously hung on was all a narrative in my own head.
Or survival. It's also survival,
yeah.
Ciara, right? So, whatever your needs was in that moment, you were hanging on to try and get that security, because there's an insecurity for somewhere along the line for the child.
Yeah.
Right? But it worked for her at some point. It's just when we get older and we go out into the world and we start doing relationships, that's the problem, where we don't need to do that anymore, but we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. Most of us don't know how we do relationships. Yes, we're getting more and more educated, right? But usually when I see people meet and be in relationship and how they meet and how they connect, if you watch Love Island, it's fascinating to see their unconscious programs all connecting.
Yeah.
And thinking that they're in relationship with the person. But actually it's just matching up with what their belief system or what's incomplete in their life. So, yeah, look, you also find different members of the family, even though they're in the same family, will have different attachment styles.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a given that everyone's going to have the same. So when you look at, one person could be a complete avoidant. And
what's an avoidant? Avoidant is like holding them at arm's length kind of thing.
Avoidant will be someone who keeps pushing you away.
Yeah.
And emotionally shut down. And can't.
So an anxious will hold on tight, and an avoidant will push you away.
Yeah, the anxious will be anxiously avoidant or anxiously holding with a lot of emotion. But the avoidant will have shut down the emotion completely, and will do anything to get out of that corner.
Yeah,
so they will like really go for it.
Yeah,
to the level where the anxious attachment will feel hurt, or it will reoccur the trauma that lies inside of their childhood. So they're getting rejected the way they felt rejected as a child.
I read some like ways of patterns of thinking for an anxious as well. Is like the reason why you hold on tight is because you never think you're going to find anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, this is all I have. And then a thinking pattern for the avoidant would be, I knew I was never meant to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
So like, get away from me.
Yeah.
So like, go away. And then it's kind of that like push and pull effect, which is like the perfect storm, as you would say.
Yeah, I called the two-step of intimacy. The one comes forward, the other one goes back. As one comes forward, the other one goes back. Right?
Yeah.
So there's that sort of tug of war going on. But
so then disorganized would be a mix of both.
Yeah, definitely. And so quite, and comes on quite chaotic.
Yeah.
Quite dramatic. It's quite all over the place, and then disappears. And it's nearly like the dump and go. So you as we talk, we'll probably even see different members of the family like that. But look, the greatest thing is to figure out and to actually understand something. It's going to be changing as we get older, and it's going to change from time to time, the different people we meet. But let's go back to what, we stay in relationships because we think we can't find someone else, or there is nobody else. And I hear all these really weird conversations with my clients. So my clients be talking about, especially the single ones, there's no men around. That is the most common statement I hear for girls who's not in relationship, or who's in relationship that it's not working, but they don't leave. Now, men have a different version, which is, and it's like black and white. Men have, no, there's no good women around. And every time I hear both of those statements, I'm like, oh my God, that's the world you're living in.
Yeah.
And you know how much reality is in that. So people come from scarcity, or they're not, something's not going to work out for them.
Yes. So scarcity or like protection. Yeah.
Protection.
So then I guess we can segue this in. I know we talk about it with people, but it happened like basically I feel like our whole life is a series of attachments to certain things.
Yeah, that's what we do.
And I'll talk a little bit about my experience over the last couple of weeks and what I came to an understanding of myself. So you could probably, if I was to put myself under a heading, I would say I was disorganized the last few months or so, because I had an anxious attachment to a place, which was New York.
New York, yeah.
And an avoidant attachment to a relationship and a new life.
And a new life, exactly. So can I ask you, what was your thinking pattern around that? What was the fear that drove that?
Around the avoidance, the new life, side.
Like movement, like your movement.
Change, the unfamiliar, stepping at like, okay, so fear, worry, anxiety were the emotions. And then I guess what I was thinking about was change and what could go wrong, and everything that I had here was so safe and secure in New York, and where I was going to go was where I am going now. Essentially, I am taking the leap of faith and you know, implementing a change and moving on to a next chapter in my life. And what that looked like to me was unknown, unfamiliar. Yeah, really, I don't even really know how to explain it beyond that.
Yeah.
Oh, also a commitment. Because I was moving out to my partner and his life, his world, which I've kind of semi introduced myself into over the last 3 years anyways. Yeah. But it was a commitment of like a long-term relationship with the potential of the next stage of our lives, which is babies and marriage and all the stuff that goes with that kind of thing. So I was also grieving. I was anxiously attached and grieving my 20s. And
yes, it was
like avoidant of growing up and moving into the next stage. So it was a real sobering moment of, wow, I'm moving on up here.
The letting go. And then what I would say to you in that is you didn't know how to let go. No, you haven't.
I did.
You have to practice the attachment to life itself. And the non-attachment is not an easy thing, but, you know, being really fixed in your ideas and your thoughts and your patterns, and them not serving you, but holding on to dear grim death anyway.
For dear life. Because just to explain a little bit more of what I, you know, think I'm leaving behind and what I was so anxiously attached to is a city and then a neighborhood. And within that neighborhood is my home now over the last 10 years. Yeah. So, and an apartment and a room that makes me feel safe. And I was living with my sister and her boyfriend. We had this apartment that's like a great deal. I was like, I have to hang on so tight to this because you can't get anything as good as this. And then I step outside my door and there's like 5 friends within walking distance. After that, if they weren't there, there's 20 more people who I could call on. So I really had cushioned myself in a massive safety bubble.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize was it wasn't serving me anymore.
Exactly.
And that's nothing to do with anybody or anything. It's that I've just outgrown this space that I'm in, and it was time for something new because nothing was happening for me. I was applying for jobs. I was like looking for opportunities for all these different things. Nothing was showing up.
Yeah, very good. So, but it's really important to identify, right, and complete the process in New York. And as that was not serving you, right, it was also an important part of your life, and it's important to you, right? So then what you got to really look at, you know, how do you get a great way of completing your life in New York that's not full of fear and anxiety and, you know, resistance. The resistance, whenever we were working together, the resistance, it was like as if you were dying. It was so real.
Locked in.
Totally locked into the sort of past, like, based lifestyle. And not knowing, it's not that you wanted to be there, but not knowing how to move forward, not knowing how to complete, not knowing how to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And put, you know, and have some power with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, I was like, it's like if I looked to my left was my past, and if I looked to my right was my future. And I was like playing tug of war with both.
Yeah.
I was anxiously holding on to the past, fairly avoidant about a future.
Yeah.
And then just stuck in the middle, not moving anywhere. Like it felt like I was just knocking my head into
you were in
brick
freeze
walls.
mode then, you know, that's the anxiety sets in, you know, because it's really confused and really tight then, right? So it's you freeze at that point.
Yeah.
And a lot of people confuse, you know, being frozen in a state to, you know, it feels like blank. It feels like, I don't know. But actually, when you really, you know, break it down, it's because your anxiety is just taking you out.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know what you needed to do. you didn't know what was coming next. But really confronting that past stuff of the dreams and the lifestyle you had created and the community. There is a lot of letting go there, Ciara.
Yeah.
That's just something you have to, feel, work through, and get completion. When I mean completion, that you walk away with, completely complete with your life and everything it's taught you and all the connections you've built in New York.
Yeah.
But also take that, like you are going to the Hamptons, which is one of the most beautiful parts outside of New York.
Yeah. I'm not going far either, you know what I mean?
You're not going far.
But that's how strong it was.
You're going up the road.
I'm going from Sligo to Dublin, like. Do you know?
Barely. You'll probably be in the Hamptons before you get to Dublin.
But that's how strong, like, it was, that I was so attached to a certain way of life that I couldn't see anything bigger and better than it. Yeah. And that goes for everything that people are either anxiously attached to or avoidantly attached to, because what you're really like limiting yourself to is something better.
Totally moving on. Yeah.
If you work out your shit.
Yeah. But also I think what happened there, you hadn't created your future powerfully enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you got locked into the past so deeply. And because you are, someone who is driven by your emotions. Where if that was an avoidant, they could move on, no problem.
Yeah, very true, actually.
Right? They're gone. Bang.
Bye.
But they're still disconnected wherever they arrive to. That disconnection's still there.
Yeah.
So you emotionally, get immersed in New York, but you'll also emotionally get immersed in Hamptons, knowing how to use it powerfully. To your benefits.
Yeah.
Because what you do, you get, there's a real benefit of what you do when it's working for you, because you know how to connect. You know how to make, connections and relationships.
Yeah.
It's just when it's at the cost, when it's not working for you anymore. So inside that, I would say the best sort of rule of thumb for you is to always check your boundaries with yourself and where you're connecting from, and where that sort of line is, where you're not over anxious and over needy and attached. Yeah.
Attached to a specific outcome or idea.
Which there is no reality in.
Yeah.
That's a madness.
Yeah.
And that happens in relationships a lot as well.
Yeah.
The actual relationship they think they're in, there's absolutely no reality on who they think they're in relationship with. They're in a relationship with what their needs are, not with the person. And it's their own, the needs that's not met is what they're trying to get met within that relationship. And I hear men say all the time, I don't know what she wants. I have no idea what she's looking for. And then I hear women say, I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah.
So you can see like all this sort of the distant sort of relationships and the space that comes in between, people who's driving from a need rather than a choice.
Yeah.
It's hugely different,
Yeah. So I guess like you could apply this as well, say if people are listening and maybe it's like attachment to, we see a lot of questions in terms of, I really want to travel, but I'm too scared.
Yeah.
Is that's attachment? I really want to get this new job, but I'm scared.
That's anxious attachment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is all this is all your attachment to a specific thing, whatever.
People, places.
I have a friend who has an attachment to his van. Like he bought a new van.
Yeah, totally.
Sold the old one and actually returned it and got back the old van.
Yeah, totally.
Even though it was about to fall apart.
Yeah, men get attached to the vans. Not to the women.
No, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Because it's good old reliable.
Yeah, reliable, right? and safe, and he's in control.
Like,
so yeah, look, if we widen it out even to the point of clothes, women get attached to clothes. There's certain clothes we love to wear and certain colors that makes us feel secure. So the bottom line is, if the underlying issue is on safety, right, and it's anxious, that anxious attachment, you're attaching everywhere you go. That's just you're trying to get everything in your environment, also your relationship, to be facilitating safety.
Yeah. Basically, anything that if this rings true in any way, and if it's anything that the best way to like understand this is to you're trying to meet a need through this attachment.
Yeah. Phones. Look at the phone. Phone's huge. I mean, people leave or lost their phone, or people leave the phone down for a minute, like what shows up is like anxious.
So what's the opposite to attachment? What should we be striving for?
Secure. No, I'd have a different distinction. No, what we'd be striving for is for completion within ourselves, is to reconnect with self and to train ourselves how to connect securely. If I'm secure within myself, I don't have to run outside, project and transfer, looking for that external world to do the job. That actually, the inner child work, I will always be coming back to that, right? That's the not till 7, stop acting out all over the place and in complete control of your life.
Yeah.
So there's always one way back to, every time I work with a client, we never look at anything outside themselves. Where they get the results from is when they go back and do the work around, the young age, child, unresolved trauma, unresolved stuff. It doesn't even have to be trauma, but anything that's unresolved in their early days, the fabulous thing there's a timeline we can go back to now and get things complete. I don't know, I had up in my story there, I went to hypnosis recently because there was a pattern that kept showing up for me. And it looked like it was the people. But actually it was like, and it was around women showing up, actually promising to do stuff. It was always around business. So I had to go back to the 3-year-old and myself. Because I was attracting a lot of avoidance. So I knew there was a part of me being really anxious attachment to this particular part of my work. And it doesn't work. It's not working. Now, rather than go around, I got pissed off, I got whatever I did, and then I had to bring myself back to me. When I came back to me, then I had to go back in the timeline, and obviously, I'm like everyone else, I need to go somewhere and work this stuff out, right? So I went back to Derek, who's someone that I sort of go, is a friend, but also someone I work with. So I went back to Derek, done some hypnosis, got the timeline. I'm 3 years old. Got the event. It's very subtle. The event was, not being heard, not being seen, not being, and there's only one event. Do you understand? But in my subconscious, that program gets programmed, and I make decisions about how the world looks. So, what decision I had made as a 3-year-old, I need help. So then, along the way, that gets reinforced when I have dyslexia. And then every day I go to school, that gets reinforced because I don't know what I'm doing in the school. I can't function. I need people to do my homework for me, all that type of thing to survive in school. So it gets reinforced and reinforced and reinforced. Now, I've worked a lot through the years on all of the unresolved issues, but there's still always a point where things show up. And you never go outside yourself. Because you cannot resolve anything with anyone else outside yourself. Because it's not, first of all, the responsibility. Secondly, it never gets resolved from there. I know I hear people, I'm going to go back to talk to parents, ex-boyfriends. I'm just going, no, it's not going to get resolved. Come back here, go internal, do the internal work, and people avoid the internal work. First of all, some people don't know how to do it, and some people know how to do it but don't want to do it, they reject it. But unless you're taking that approach of doing the inner internal completion for the child and making sure she's secure, it doesn't matter how logical you're going to apply things in your life, it ain't going anywhere. Logic does not make a difference. It's two different parts of the brain.
Yeah.
You got your logic and you got your emotional part of your brain. So we keep going. This is the biggest mistake I've seen is we keep going to the logic part of the brain, trying to get the emotional part of the brain resolved. Now, they can work hand in hand, but until we go to the depth and the core, nothing changes.
So this is what you're saying in terms of having awareness and working through your attachment styles and how you show up to certain people, places, things,
all of it.
That's where it works.
Mm. And it's not just, the awareness is only step one. That's what people
so for example, if what we're talking about is completely alien to you right now, like I would just say, just observe kind of what you put so much weight on in your life. Is it your phone? Is it your person? Is it your children? Is it your...
Yeah, I see a lot of that,
Is it your job? Like, where do you validate yourself or, try and make yourself feel better in? And that is attachment to something.
Totally. So I was really attached to the issue of getting people to help me do certain things in my business, but I don't particularly want to do. I'm not interested in figuring this stuff out. But I also want to work with people who's not an avoidant. People who can show up and be there, and we can work stuff out.
Yeah.
But what I want to say just in the back of that, once I got the issue complete for the 3-year-old, then I can come back to the relationship with that person in business, and it's absolutely done, deal, spot on, because my triggers wasn't triggering her stuff, and her stuff couldn't trigger me, and it's a whole new relationship. Now, do I choose to long-term to work like that with that person? No. But do I get the project?
You won't attract that though anymore because you've shifted your own perspective.
Exactly. But, I could go back to someone because I've completed that particular part of my life, right? Which was a real gift, and it's really important because it's always someone's going to show it. It doesn't matter who it is. Someone is always going to show up and show me that part that's incomplete. I'm really grateful for it. Now, this is also, so when I go back to work with those people, first of all, if I do go back to do anything with a person who's avoidant, we won't have that relationship anymore because mine is complete. So they can't engage in that way. And secondly, I will also choose not to.
Yeah.
Big difference. And that's where your boundaries comes in, Ciara.
Yeah. Big
it's about self-respect, self-care, and boundaries, and choose the people who's ready there who makes sense to work with and who's going to give the results you want.
Yeah. I heard something beautiful last night, and I think it applies to like making decisions in your life. Go where the warmth is.
Yes.
So, and if I look at my decision, in terms of staying in New York or going to the Hamptons, the warmth is in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
But like, why was I pushing that off for so long?
It's a child. Not Ciara, not Ciara the adult. It was Ciara the unresolved, issue for the child.
Yeah.
The fear. But the great news no, the fantastic thing is, Ciara, you really work through that stuff.
Yeah.
Look at look at what the outcome has been for you. You're in the most beautiful part of the world. You're in the most beautiful apartment. Your life has really moved on within 2 weeks.
Because that's how fast it can happen once you just kind of let go,
Like
you said.
Once you get complete, hey, the universe will back you up,
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Yeah. So hopefully, people will get that's any attachment style is the same process. That's what I've spoken about today. So there's no, you tick this process for this style and that style is different. No, you still have to go back to the child, young age, figure out why am I avoiding? Why am I the anxious attachment? Or when I'm here, it's a really great toolkit.
Yeah.
Journal will give you so many information on how you're, what's the patterns. Because sometimes when you're working stuff in your own head, you don't see it the same way.
Yeah.
Once you take it outside into a view, external view, you can use your journal for that external view and really start figuring stuff out,
Amazing.
Cool. So thank you, as always, for being so generous and
thank you
and informative. And until we meet again, until our next podcast.
Yes.
Thank you, Ciara. I love you. And
love you.
We will talk soon. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Rebellious Therapist podcast. For more information, you can follow me, the Rebellious Therapist, on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You can find further information on my website, therebellioustherapist.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.